You'll notice that when we first start behavior creation, and we'll come back to this because we'll talk about doing this later, but when we first start creating behavior, we don't put commands to our behaviors. So you're not going to say sit, you're not going to say touch, you're not going to say any of that. You're just going to teach the dog how to do it. And once we fluently get the dog doing it, then we'll put a word to it. We'll add the command. The reason for this is twofold. One, if I bring the dog out and give a command and then try to get them to do something, maybe they do it, maybe they don't do it. So I bring my dog out, I say sit and try to lure them into a sit. Then what if they don't sit? Then what? I've said this word, they don't do it. I said the word, they don't do it. And we talked before, briefly yesterday, about the concept of learned irrelevance, right? And if you make sounds a lot and the dog doesn't make a meaningful connection with them, they start to want to ignore them. And in the early stages of teaching, I want the dog to be successful more than not. So by doing this, I don't give the command until I'm relatively sure that I can get the dog to do what I want. And so I practice getting them to sit over and over again until every time I go like this, they sit. And then I say sit. Oh, look at that, you sat. So the first time they hear the word, they're successful. And it makes that process easier. Also, I don't capture some variation of the behavior. So what if my dog sits but doesn't sit the way I wanted? Sat and flopped over on its hip or something. The dog doesn't know anything, but if I don't reward the dog, maybe the dog says, I don't want to do this anymore. So you can kind of perfect the behavior a little bit. Not only are you sure you can get the dog to do it, but you're sure you can get them to do it the way you want them to do it before you add a word to it. So they don't learn it the wrong way and then have to relearn it later the right way. This is especially important for competition dogs. There's a very well-known agility trainer in the Midwest, a woman named Ann Brow, who has been very successful, gone to the national championships and world championships. She calls the concept, don't name it until you love it, right? So create the behavior. When you like the behavior, that's the way it should be, then give it a name. And we'll do that. So in the early stages of all our behavior creation here, sits, down, stands, those things, we're not putting commands to them. We're going to get the behavior, and then we'll talk about putting behavior on verbal cue later in the class.